by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Cowboys. It's Miller time. Albertsons and Tom Thumb, the official supermarket and pharmacy of the Dallas Cowboys. Lucchese, the official bootmaker of the Dallas Cowboys. Blockchain.com, trusted by millions, trusted by America's team. And by Omni Hotels and Resorts, the official hotel of the Dallas Cowboys.
Now, your hosts, Hailey Sutton and Brad Sham.
And welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Concrete Cowboy. Welcome to the Miller Lite You can applaud better than that.
Is there some signs back there?
Yes, this is these people are our loyalists. They're here every week, and it's Victory Monday. It's Victory Monday. You know what we need? We need somebody. We need somebody to record part of an open that will. This is not the last Victory Monday. You understand? There will be more Victory Mondays.
He's got it on his shirt right there.
On his shirt. So we need a Victory Monday open to play when it's appropriate. Let's pass that word up the food chain. So what a treat for me to be able to introduce all of you to Hailey Sutton, who haven't met Hailey yet. And we're going to steal some of Tyler's time because I don't think he's going to mind, so that you can get to meet Hailey. And our very special guest is the Cowboys' #1 draft choice, Tyler Smith. Thank you very much for being here.
Look at that round of applause that you get.
Do anybody come in from Crowley, from the neighborhood tonight?
From Crowley? No,
Yeah.
not tonight.
Not tonight. Okay, all right.
I'm not sure.
We're going to get into all of that because it's Victory Monday, and the Cowboys have now they've now beaten both the Super Bowl teams from last year, and I guess they've got another interesting game coming up Sunday night. But we'll get to that. We'll talk. I want all of you who have not had a chance on DallasCowboys.com to get to know Hailey Sutton, who is new to the organization. 4 weeks.
Are we
in week 4?
This is starting week 4. Yeah.
Okay.
So brand new.
Ladies and gentlemen, Hailey Sutton, tell them about yourself.
Hi, guys. Oh, this is so much fun. This is so different from what I'm used to. I normally just get a camera in front of me, so it's good to get to actually chat with some people. I am just so excited to be here. I am from the area. I grew up in Red Oak, Texas, so right down the road. Been here my whole life, supported this franchise my whole life, so what a dream to get to do this every day. I got my start in local news, so I graduated from the University of North Texas, go Mean Green. And there you go, Terrence. From there, I packed up my stuff and my 2 dogs, and I moved to Great Falls, Montana, where I spent 2 years working at a television station in Great Falls, Montana.
Not a big round of applause for Great Falls yet.
I know.
Okay.
It was different. From there, I went to Montgomery, Alabama, where I got to cover the Crimson Tide, the Auburn Tigers, and some high school football. And then I went to Miami. So I actually just moved here from Miami. I was living there since January. And now I am back here with the Cowboys back home.
And we're happy to have you. And if you go to DallasCowboys.com and watch all the programming, you will see Hailey. She is ubiquitous, which does not mean, I think, right hand and left hand. I think that's another
ambidextrous.
word. Ambidextrous, right, okay. But she's everywhere, and she's going to be with us for the rest of the season on the Cowboys Hour. We are thrilled about that. We are delighted that we are back here at Concrete Cowboy in the Star District. And we're here for another 3 or 4 weeks, right up almost to Halloween, right out here on the patio. It's lovely, great big TVs, fabulous food, and we love to put on a show for the studio audience. And the patio's the studio, so we're glad to have you here. We're glad to have you listening wherever you're joining us on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network and on the home of Hailey Sutton, DallasCowboys.com. The little boxes, Tyler, these are all the little cameras so you can wave to everybody at home because we're streaming on DallasCowboys.com. And so here is Tyler Smith, who, if we had told you 1 year ago that in October, a year from now, you're going to be the starting left tackle for the Dallas Cowboys, you would have said.
I mean, I don't know about that. That's probably what I would have said at that point in time. I mean, I was just in college at the time. Like, we were in the middle of the college season. Obviously, I took it game by game then, as I still do now. You know, you take every week, day by day, game by game in terms of football. And so I was definitely in a different space at the time. Like, I definitely had aspirations for sure going to the NFL. But it was just a different time.
So yesterday, obviously, a very big, important win when you beat a team like the defending Super Bowl champions on the road. Could you tell about how many Cowboy fans there were? Could you feel that the presence of the Cowboy fans?
I mean,
in LA?
you could definitely feel that we were battling on more even ground than they probably expected. Like the crowd was loud. Like it was an amazing atmosphere for sure. You could feel that. We had the home team on the away field for sure.
Was that weird? What does that do for a player on the road?
I mean, it definitely, I'd be so locked
Probably
in.
didn't get a lot of that from Tulsa, did you?
Nah, we didn't get a lot of noise. I ain't lie. Like, we had fans, but not to that level. But it's definitely, I definitely think it's an advantage. It makes the other team kind of feel the pressure of the game just as much as we do in certain situations, game situations. So it's definitely an advantage, I say.
All right, we're going to get this out of the way because you won the game, and it's part of the narrative. So you got to meet Aaron Donald in person.
I did get
up close and personal.
Yeah,
with him.
I got acquainted with him for sure.
Yeah, which was not a surprise to you. You knew they were going to put him over there. So
right.
When the game started, and I just been watching some of the first half offense. When the game started, they had him more inside at his traditional position. Did you find yourself from the beginning of the game just looking up to see, is he here yet? Because I know he's coming.
I mean, we keyed in on him all week. Like, it's no lie that, in the NFL, when you have a player like that, he's a huge part of the game plan in terms of how you can kind of limit his abilities, his ability to wreck the game. So whenever he was on the field, we always knew, like, okay, 99's on the field. Like, where he is, and that would kind of change up some of your job responsibilities, like, albeit, like, minutely, but it was all important, like, in terms of just how to kind of put him in a box a little bit.
So if my memory's right, it was near the end of the first quarter when they put him at end over you for the first time.
Right.
And did you say to yourself, "Oh, there you are"?
Yeah,
I've been waiting for you.
I mean, I seen him. Like I seen it because we was going fast at the time, and so I get up to the line. Like, of course, I see him. Like, I'm getting the pass pro call, and I get set. But I mean, know who that is over there for sure. Like, there's no mistaking it. Like, the 2 9s on there. But
all right. So someday, Aaron Donald's going to say, yeah, I played against Tyler Smith when he was a rookie. By the way, just so you know who Larry Allen is, right?
I do know who Larry Allen is.
So Larry Allen, who might be the best offensive lineman in the history of this franchise, he's a Hall of Famer. And I saw Reggie White throw Larry Allen his rookie year. Pick him up and throw him. So nobody else ever did that to him again. And I don't know how many people are going to give you the problems that Aaron Donald did yesterday, but it happens is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So what do you think you learned from the experience of having a full dose of Aaron Donald yesterday?
I mean, definitely just to stay tight. Like, he's a great player. Like, you can't take it from him. He's probably one of the best defensive players in the game, if not the best to ever play. And, like, at the end of the day, you're going to fall to the level of your training. Like, when I went back and watched the tape, I kind of wondered, like, what he did or what he may not or have done to, like, kind of get me in those positions. And when I look back at it, a lot of it was on me. Like, we got Jason Peters on the sideline with us that game. I come to the sideline, after, I have some bad reps against him. He's like, man, you just got to kick and stay square. Like, it's not a secret. He's like, you're not putting yourself in the best position to win. Like, I'm just telling you how it is. And so, like, I come back to the field, I kind of, I take that with me. And, things happen. It's like you said, that's a great player. Like, at the end of the day, he got to play football. But I could have put myself in a better position for sure. Like, it's a good learning experience.
What does the bragging rights for you feel like now that you've battled the best defensive player in the league, arguably one in the history of the league, and your team won that battle? So from a bragging perspective, like, how does that feel?
I mean, it was definitely cool. Like, victories are huge in the NFL. They're not easy to come by. But, the goal still lies far ahead in the future. Like, we want to lift that Lombardi trophy at the end of the year. It was definitely good to, like, go against a team like that, go against players like that, and kind of see, like, what all the hype is about. Because there is, like, there's a little air of mystery, like some, electricity in the air where you kind of go against, like, dudes like that. And so it was definitely a great team win just to kind of, establish, what we got on this team, what we bring forward in this year. But, our goals definitely lie far ahead in the future.
Does your preparation not change, because there's a certain routine that you guys go through every week when it comes to practice and meetings and all of that. But now that you face someone like Aaron Donald, you've learned about yourself. Like you mentioned, you've got mentors like Jason Peters on the sideline. Does your preparation going into a new game week change now that you have that under your belt?
I mean, it definitely does. Like, the more tape you have of other guys throughout the year, the more tape they have of you. And so, at this junction in the year, this is where you got to do a lot more self-scout. Like, you got to really kind of see where your weaknesses are, where you got to be more consistent, where you got to change, like, your play style to kind of keep evolving throughout the year because, it's definitely, week to week, things change, guys go down, guys come up, but you just got to kind of understand who you're going against and how you got to change yourself to fit that.
Two other things come to mind, and then we're going to have to take our first break. One is you mentioned Jason Peters. So
right.
To me, just having watched him through the years and knowing a little bit about him, because Tyron is not able to be – Tyron's getting treatment. He can't be around you as much as he wants to be.
Right.
To me, whatever they're paying Jason Peters was worth it to have him in the room with you and Terrence, whether he ever got on the field or not. Can you just say a word about what he's meant to you from a mentoring position?
I mean, he's been huge for me. Like, we have Tyron and Zach in the room. Those are Hall of Fame players. Like, at the end of the day, you can't really debate that. But he's also, he's a Hall of Fame guy. And when Tyron went down, he kind of, like you said, had to do treatment and other things that drew him away from the team. JP came in, and he's been doing this for, like, over 15 years. He's been playing, NFL football since I was, like, 3 years old. So just kind of hearing what he has to say and, like, having him kind of coach me up when I had to, do the short turnaround from training camp and to playing tackle. Like, it brought me light years ahead because it was just like, there's a trust component to everything. There's a trust in your coaching. There's a trust in your training and all these sorts of things. And when you have somebody telling you, to do certain things, like, and they're telling you a certain way, and they have, like, 15 years of, 15 plus years experience. Like, I say 15, but it's more than that. But just all the experience he has, like, you're able to trust him more. You're able to, like, just, pour more of your soul into it. So he's been huge for our room, and he's continued to help me today.
And the other thing, but then we'll take our break, is I want to ask you a question I asked Sam Williams after the game. Sam Williams had his best game so far, played his most snaps, made an impact. And so I'm going to ask you the same question. How would you describe the difference in yourself as a football player from the first day in Oxnard till today?
Ooh.
Definitely just understanding the game more, if that makes sense. Like, there's so much that goes into this game, like, from preparation to personnel to, like, all these other sorts of things that kind of happen. And as you go throughout the year, you'll find, like, there's a lot of adapting you got to do. There's a lot of learning that you do throughout the year. Like, there's a lot of, technique things that you got to hone up on. There's a lot of mental things you got to hone up on because you're going against a different opponent every week. And, all these opponents are the best of the best. So definitely just becoming a more dutiful football player in terms of, like, preparation and stuff like that, for sure.
It's Victory Monday, and we're giving everybody a chance to get to know Tyler Smith, the Cowboys left tackle. We're at the Concrete Cowboy at the Star District in Frisco. We'll be right back.
Back to the Miller Lite Cowboys Hour, supported by Albertsons.
This hour is presented by Albertsons and Tom Thumb. Get 10% off your groceries every Dallas Cowboys game day when you wear your Cowboys jersey. Albertsons and Tom Thumb, the official supermarket and pharmacy of the Dallas Cowboys. We've been chatting with Cowboys left tackle Tyler Smith. And Tyler, we were chatting during the break just about the age difference. You mentioned that Jason Peters kind of like the funny uncle as opposed to a big brother. And I somebody pointed this out to me today. I wrote it down and I highlighted it here. You're not old enough to rent a car officially yet, but you're going against guys like Aaron Donald, and you're learning from Tyron Smith, Jason Peters. I want to ask you, just what are maybe some of the challenges that you face being so young and being thrust into a position starting like you are?
I mean, it's definitely, I say it's kind of adjustment in life a little bit. Like, it was definitely something I was expecting. Like, going throughout college, I'm used to a strenuous schedule. Like, having to be places early, having to be on time. Like, there's no problem with that. But it's kind of, this is my second, like, real job in life. Like, I worked at Sonic, and then I worked at Sonic, and then I was a professional football player. And like, the scales are just,
Which one's harder?
I was just getting ready to ask that.
You definitely do more standing at Sonic. It's weird. I do a lot of standing, but yeah, it's just different in terms of like how you approach the job, because you come in and obviously like you're drafted high, like a lot is expected. You want to have all the answers, like, and I'm in a room with a lot of guys who have a lot of good answers, and so they've definitely been an invaluable resource to me in terms of my development and just like them helping me out. But it's it's a lot more preparation. It's a lot more that goes into it. Like, you have to be on top of a lot more. And I feel like it's not necessarily something that's specific to me, but it's the same for a lot of young players that come into the league.
The tater tots aren't as good here, though, are they? I mean, when they serve them up, they're pretty good, but you don't get them as often, right?
No, we don't get them as often. Not during the season. They look out for us, though, because the dietary.
I will say we get to eat lunch in there with you guys too, and no complaints on that end. The food is very, very good. So no complaints on that end. I was going to ask you what your go-to Sonic order since you work there.
My go-to Sonic order, probably the popcorn chicken nuggets, baby.
Okay.
Like, you work there, so you eventually stop liking the food because you see how it's prepared. Like,
wow. Wow.
All these people are like questioning whether or not they're going to go back to
Hold
Sonic.
Let me just talk to our marketing team. Sonic's not a sponsor, are they? We're okay. All right, good. Keep going, Tyler. You're on a roll.
It's not necessarily Sonic in general. It's just kind of like fast food. Like, when you see how fast food is done, like in house, you're a little bit shocked, but yeah, it's just it's different for sure.
All right.
I had Sonic for dinner last night, so now I'm not feeling
and how was
so
it? Did you have tots?
No, I did. The tots were okay.
Tots
I
are
had
excellent.
a chicken sandwich.
The tots are good. The tots are good.
You can't beat
go
the tots.
wrong.
Cannot go wrong with the tots. Okay, let's go back to Crowley. When did you know that you might be a good football player?
A good football player?
Before Crowley, even before high school?
I mean, I don't know, really. Like, I felt like in Pee Wee, I was a bigger kid. I was faster. I was stronger. Like, all the things that make you a good football player. But, like, my position changed in high school. Like, so I went from playing D-line, like, most of my young as a kid and all the way up until my junior year of high school. Now I switched to O-line. And I didn't really know, like, what O-line was or, like, how you were supposed to do it. Like, I just knew you were supposed to, like, block people. You're just supposed to get on somebody and move them. And so, like, I did a lot of that. I got to college. I was pretty humble in my expectations. I was like, I'm going to come in. I'm going to get my education. I'm going to play football. And we'll see where it goes. But when I went against Travis Gibson, he plays for the Bears now. Like, when I kind of went up against him and, like, I seen how I was playing against him, I was like, okay, I might have a chance to do some great things. 'Cause I knew Travis was going to the NFL coming in. Like, I knew he was one of our best players. And so he gave me a lot of confidence in myself. And obviously, things, thank God, things turned out really well for me. Like I said, I was in a very blessed position. I have not got my degree yet, but I'll go back and do that. So, expectations change for sure.
The defense to offense thing interests me. It takes a whole different mentality, especially when you're playing in the line.
Right.
When they first, so it was in high school that you got moved?
Yeah, I got moved in high school.
And when you were playing D-line and Pee Wee, did it go tackle the guy, run after him and run him down and tackle him. Did that feel natural, and did it feel unnatural, some of the discipline things that you had to do to play O-line in high school?
I felt like I definitely felt like some of the discipline things on O-line were unnatural. Like, I like D-line, to this day. Like, I probably, if I could have been a D-lineman, I would have done that. Obviously, it didn't happen that way. Like, but, my favorite players were D-linemen. Like, a lot of the things I brought to the other side of the ball, I felt like came from that defensive mentality, just like in terms of the aggression, in terms of just like, the play style and, the mentality. Obviously, on O-line, you don't have as much of a chance. Like, no, you have just as much of a chance to impose your will, but you just like, it's a team sport type thing. Like, you're more of a cohesive unit. Like, it's less about you and more about us in terms of like your mindset. So that was definitely a change at first.
Do you know who Mark Tuinei was? You ever heard of him?
I'm not sure.
Mark Tuinei was a Pro Bowl lineman for the Cowboys. He was a college free agent, came out of Hawaii as a defensive lineman.
Right.
Made the team as a defensive lineman. Was a natural, aggressive guy. Played many years before they moved him to offense, and then he made the Pro Bowl. And to the day that he stopped playing, he said, I never felt right. I still think I'm a defensive lineman. I just have that in me, I think.
Right.
I was going to say, if Dan Quinn's listening, his ears are kind of perking up a little bit. The opportunity for you to be versatile.
Does he know that you'd jump in if a couple of guys got nicked up, you'd jump in.
If he asks, obviously, I'm willing to do whatever I need to do to help the team. Like, it's not a problem. But, things didn't turn out that way for sure. I definitely feel like, this is my, this is what I need to do, like, here. But, it's kind of like you said, it never quite feels like, you always look at the other side. You're like, maybe I could do that a little bit better than he could, but you never know.
Especially when they tell you, don't use your hands like that.
Yeah.
No, let me use my hand. Let me show you what I can do if I use my hands.
Yeah, so it's definitely, it's a, in another life.
How in another life, how common is it for that conversion, or how often do you see that where a guy maybe starts on the offense and moves to the defense, or vice versa?
It happens a lot. Like, the same thing happened with Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson was like a DN in college. Like, he either kept trying to keep weight off him, or he couldn't gain weight, and he gained like a lot of weight at OU. Obviously, became what he was. Jason Peters, he actually started off as a defensive line prospect. And then he got moved to tight end in college, did a lot of special team stuff, came to the NFL. Then he got moved to O-line, so it was kind of like the same way for him. It's the same way for a lot of players. Like, just because, D linemen tend to have better feet. Even Tyler Biotish in high school, he was a defensive line prospect. He went to college, or he went to a camp, and he worked O-line there and ended up getting a scholarship. And so that's kind of how he got started. So it happens for a lot of guys. It's pretty common.
What is the benefit of that for you? Like, does that give you an advantage at all whenever you're at practice or when you're lining up in games?
I definitely feel like, the mental advantage is big. Like, I don't necessarily think D linemen are more athletic than, like, full-time O-linemen or anything. I feel like it's less about that. But definitely a mentality thing for sure. Like, that aggression when you play throughout the whistle. Like, you got a chip on your shoulder. Like, even if, like, on O-line, you kind of got to restrain them more. I'm not going to lie. Like, you can't really you can't show your emotion as much, like, in terms of, just staying within the confines of the rules. But it's definitely something I brought with me to the other side of the ball. It's just that mentality.
And have you heard it expressed by guys you've played with or against through college, and now that you're up here, that a little bit of a nasty streak in an offensive lineman is a very admirable trait, as long as you can keep it in check?
Oh, I definitely have. Like, it was something that was embraced at Tulsa. Like, we took pride in how physical we played. We took pride in, putting dudes on the ground and, like, all these other sorts of things. But we also took pride in the discipline aspect that came with that. Like, it's all, it's good to do all these things, but just make sure, like, everything you do is conducive to helping the team. Like, 'cause, on offense, like, our job is to move the ball forward. Like, you're trying to move it back as least as possible, but you also trying to, you're trying to impose your will down there for sure.
Do you like to see a guy quit? You like to make him quit?
I do like seeing guys quit, because it's like, it's weird to see almost, like, in football, it's such a, it's a macho sport. Like, when you go against a dude, like, it's like two wheels clashing every play. Like, so when a dude breaks, like, it's kind of sad to see, but you definitely like to see it, because you're like, yeah, like, we got him. That, like, when you see one break, the chain is weak. Like, if that makes sense. When you see one link break, like, the chain is weak.
You were described by your head coach today as being an alpha. What does that mean to you?
Alpha. I mean, it definitely means like to me when I hear alpha, I think leader. Like necessarily not how you are like physically, but there's a lot more things that encompass alpha, like how you approach things, like what's your mentality towards things, work ethic, like how you how you view yourself as part of a team. Like at the end of the day, like one alpha and 10 regular guys, that's cool, but 11 alphas on the same line, like, or the same team or same side of the ball, like that's something that's irreplaceable. Like when you got that, then you cooking with something dangerous.
Is there ever a moment where you're allowed, because I know you're talking about from an offensive line perspective, you guys work as a unit and that's kind of the goal, but is there ever a moment when you want to kind of break out and celebrate, like maybe you get that key block or you avoid the penalty? Like, are you able to kind of show who Tyler Smith is?
I mean, definitely in victory. Like, I feel like with games, like when you get good blocks and when you score, obviously when you score, but in victory is like when you can really, when I feel like it's really time to celebrate, because that's when you giving everything you had, like, in the time limit, and, you came out on top. Like, there's nothing else left to be said. There's nothing else left to be done. Like, you won. So definitely then, I feel like victory is when you can show your behind a little bit.
How old do you have to be to rent a car?
25 is what I was told. I thought it was 26, but
You do gotta be 25. Without, I can't remember what it is, but like I can get it. I rented a car now. You just gotta.
There's special paperwork.
Yeah, but now you
out.
just go in and say, "I'm Tyler Smith. I need to rent that car."
There's like a fee. We do get we get a little discount. I'm not sure how much I can say about that, but we do get a discount.
We won't prod you too much.
I didn't hear a thing. I don't know what you're talking about, except that Tyler Smith, the Cowboys rookie #1 draft pick and starting left tackle, is our guest this evening. We are at Concrete Cowboy at the Star District in Frisco on the Cowboys Hour, and we will have a microphone to pass among our audience here if you would like to talk to Tyler a little bit later, and we'll be right back.
Cowboys Hour, supported by Albertsons.
From Concrete Cowboy at the Star District in Frisco, I'm Brad Sham with Hailey Sutton and our very special guest, Tyler Smith, the Cowboys left tackle. Hailey, do you have anything there you'd like to read about Lucchese?
Lucchese.
By any chance?
Thank you for helping me out with that. I've been struggling with the pronunciation. The Cowboys Hour is presented by Lucchese, the official bootmaker of the Dallas Cowboys, and I will never say that wrong ever again.
I've never heard you say it wrong.
Lucchese, like Brad mentioned, we're here with Tyler Smith. Tyler, I want to take you kind of away from the game for a second. So it's an off day or maybe a light day of practice. What do you do to kind of get your mind off of football, just to kind of reset a little bit?
Man, that's a funny question. Okay, so I'll be completely honest here. My off days can pretty much consistent. Me getting up, I eat breakfast. I cook my breakfast. I go get some treatment because it's a short week. And a lot of the times in the NFL, you got a short week. You gotta get your body right. You come home. I kind of do wherever the day takes me to. I might go to the range and shoot a few targets, or I might go see a friend or something something like that. But it's pretty chill most of the time. I like to kind of sit down and just relax because it's a pretty hectic week.
Are you a gamer?
I do game occasionally. I play Call of Duty. Man, funny enough, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to play the Madden. I don't like what they've done, in recent years with it. I really don't. And then I play some shooters. I play some pretty Call of Duty and stuff, like some other shooters like that.
When you go to the range, what is your shooting instrument of choice?
Ooh. Okay, so I got a membership, so I can basically rent whatever they got on the wall, and they always got something new in there.
So you can rent a gun, but not a car.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Just so we're clear.
I just want to make sure about that.
We live in a great state, so
yes, don't we? Yes, we do.
So I definitely, I shoot rifles. I kind of shoot everything they have in there. It's kind of like being a kid in a candy shop when it comes to that. They'll let me take whatever I want to onto the range. I just gotta pay for the ammo.
Right.
It kind of depends on how much you want to pay for ammo, because some weapons, their ammo's high right now. Apparently, I never really knew the market on that, how that was. So, you might pay $1 a bullet, for 50 cal or something like that. It's a lot. I can't remember what the specific number is, but it's $5 or $7 a bullet. So it really depends. But I do that. I'm gonna try to go to the state fair at some point, before they leave, because we haven't had as much time as I wanted to. So I'm gonna try to get out there.
Tomorrow. Go tomorrow.
You never know. I can't.
You're not going to put it out there that you're going to be at the fair, because then people
never let them know your next move.
I know, exactly.
Who taught you that?
It was a lot of people.
I was going to say, that's that viral TikTok that everybody does, to never know your next move.
Okay. I'm sorry I got stuck on a mental picture of you walking through the state fair and stopping for a Fletcher's corny dog. I'm going to take you back a little bit. Again, we're at Crowley now. You're an offensive lineman.
Right.
At some point, someone says, "Keep doing that. You can get a scholarship. You might even be able to get a job doing this." When did that happen?
The first inclination I had that maybe I probably have a future in college is when I got my offer from Houston. That was my first collegiate offer. Other than that, I was a pretty raw prospect. I was out there doing a lot of things, but it wasn't necessarily in the most technical or organized way. It was just I had a lot of ability at the time, and so when you got a player with a lot of ability who's not necessarily friendly, it takes a certain type of coach to kind of bring out the best attributes in them. And luckily, my opportunity came at Tulsa, but definitely my junior year of high school is when I kind of got the thumbs up I was doing something right, when I seen the superlatives and stuff.
If Houston offered you first, how did you wind up at Tulsa?
Man, so Houston offered me first. I got a couple of other offers like Navy, the University of New Mexico. And then Houston took their offer away.
The nerve.
So, the early signing period, I kept on trying to communicate with the coach at the time. I won't name any names because, it's in the past, but I was communicating with him.
By the way, that coach is in the past now, too.
Tyler said, "I got the receipts, y'all." He said, "I have the receipts."
But he was like, "Man, we're trying to get you down here for a visit." I was like, "Coach, I'm trying to get down there whenever I can. It's pretty busy right now with school and stuff." And so I texted him, like, probably in December. I was like, hey, can I come down for a visit? He was like, yeah, man, we're trying to get you down here immediately. Like, and so he just kept on kind of giving me the runaround, like, when I would ask him. And then we got to probably, like, the week of or, like, the week before early signing day, and he was like, yeah, we're going in a different direction. Like, he kind of dropped that on me from the bus on the bus ride back home. So at this point, I kind of, like, I wouldn't say I closed down my recruitment, but I was pretty heavy on Houston. I stopped talking to a lot of other schools, so that kind of fell through right there. And that's how that happened. But Tulsa came, they came mid-January, and they offered me. And so at that point, it was the best opportunity, educational and football-wise, for me.
That's an embittering experience for a young man. How did you handle that? What did you learn from that experience?
It was tough at the time. I definitely leaned on my faith for sure. Like, I knew I'd end up where I needed to be, and it really didn't. At the time, it didn't matter, who or where the opportunity was. It just mattered that there was an opportunity anywhere. And so, I was definitely hopeful. It was tough at first. Like, I won't lie to you. It's kind of tough because you're like, man, they kind of wasted my time. Like, I wish he had just told me earlier so I could have, took my eggs out of this basket. But things ended up happening, working out for the best. That was my belief. I was kind of like, God's going to take me where I need to go and, just leave it at that. So it was, it was definitely something that needed to happen.
What was life like in Tulsa, that transition going from small-town Crowley to small-town Tulsa?
It was interesting to say the least. Like, at Tulsa, it's really small, compared to, like, DFW or Fort Worth. And, the demographic there is just a little different. Like, people are more quieter. Like, they're more low-key and kept to themselves. Like, my campus was in pretty good, like, I say my campus was in a good area. Like, and I hung out with my teammates a lot. Like, there's not as much to do out there as there is here. Like, they don't have, like, AT&T Stadium or, the ballpark. Like, there's not a lot of that out there. So we just kind of, we hung out, did stuff the Tulsa way. Like, I definitely met a lot of interesting homies over there. I went to some lake houses. Like, some of my teammates had lake houses. That was interesting. Never did that before. Like, I went spear fishing and bow fishing. Like, I was kind of out there, and I definitely did a lot more country stuff for sure. Like,
so, are you an outdoorsy person in general, or?
I'm definitely more of one now. Like, I say before, like, I probably wasn't, but when I got to college, I kind of experienced the outdoors for real. So that kind of changed my perspective on a lot of things for sure.
So you're big into fishing, big into hunting, big into all that.
Yeah, that's some of my overarching interests right now.
All right, so when during your career at Tulsa did you start to want to and really believe that you would play in the NFL?
I say freshman year, I knew, like I said, going against Travis and, some of those guys, I knew that the potential was there. After my red shirt freshman year, my second year, I definitely wanted to go because I saw, Zaven Collins, he went to the Cardinals at pick 16. I saw how he kind of blew up, like, he kind of asserted himself in the college football scene that COVID year. And so I was like, man, like, just seeing, how things went for him, how much work he put in, to get to where he was. I was pretty hopeful. I was like, he went first round from Tulsa. Like, there's no reason, I can't make the most of this opportunity here and end up where I want to be. And so, like, definitely after that second year is when I was like, I want to go to the NFL is what I want to do.
Did you want to play here?
This would have been, like, when I say this would have been the craziest, so I was gonna play anywhere that paid. Like, let me keep it real. Like, it's a blessing wherever you go. Like, if you're picked by one of the 32, like, it's a blessing. But just to have, I never in a million years expected it to be here. Like, I was just like, you can only win the lottery once. Like, it's kind of, it's gonna be.
That's actually not true. You can win it. You can win it multiple times.
Yeah, but like in my life, I was like, you don't get. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna get that lucky, but it ended up happening. That's kind of how it happened. But at the time, I could not have told you I was playing here.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, has it lived up to your expectations so far?
Oh, it definitely has. Like, there's nothing like being a Dallas Cowboy. Like, there's a whole different scene over here.
Were you a fan of the Cowboys as a kid? Were you more a fan? Some guys more are fans of specific players or teams.
So I was more a fan of specific players. Like, I didn't have a team growing up. Like, my mom's from Shreveport, Louisiana, so obviously, she was a Saints fan. Like, I didn't really have a squad per se, but I did have players like J.J. Watt, Gerald McCoy at the time. Like, kind of like basically every dude who had an E60, that was kind of interesting.
So far, I'm only hearing defensive players.
I mean, yeah, I was at the time I was a defensive lineman, so like those were my guys. Like, and then as I moved to the other side of the ball, I kind of discovered the O-line cult. Like, I started learning about Tyron and like, cause you got to YouTube these guys. Like, it's harder to find highlights. The O-lineman, like you'll look up his highlights and you'll see like NFL top 100 or something like that. You got to kind of take what you can get from there. Or like some cut-ups, but like that's when I started to kind of learn about the art form. Like when I was like 17, 18, like junior season and senior season.
Tyron has told me that we're going to take our last break and then get your questions ready because we'll be taking your questions for Tyler. Tyron has told me that when he came out of SC, he thought he knew how to play football.
Yeah.
And then he started practice against DeMarcus Ware, and he found out that he didn't know how to play football, and he didn't even know how to watch film of football.
Yeah.
And then he learned. Are you experiencing anything like that?
I mean, I definitely am. Like, yesterday was definitely, an eye-opener. Like, it was always an eye-opener from the beginning of the season because I was going against great players. But, when you go against, people who kind of, you got to really be tight on your fundamentals, like, and that you really just can't give them an inch of ground. Like, it kind of shows you, how different the game is and how small your margin of error really is. Because, like, you may get away with some stuff on some people, but you're not going to get away with the same stuff on everybody. Like, that's something that you definitely learn early. And so it's definitely, there are going to be ebbs and flows. This rookie season, it's a big learning year. But you learn a new lesson every day, I'd definitely say.
I will bet. Tyler Smith is our guest on the Cowboys Hour at Concrete Cowboy at the Star District in Frisco. We'll be right back with your questions for Tyler.
Miller Lite Cowboys Hour, supported by Albertsons.
Welcome back to the Concrete Cowboy, right across the street from the Star in Frisco. This is Cowboys Hour, and it's presented by Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's. And the amount of times that I've seen that commercial, it's fun to get to say that on air, actually, this time.
We are with Tyler Smith, the Cowboys' #1 pick. And before we start taking your questions, and we are going to be doing that in just a second. So you said you would never have imagined that they would pick you. Then they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you've talked about it a lot, but relive that phone call, will you?
I mean, it was more, it was extreme shock. Definitely, I wouldn't say necessarily disbelief, but.
I mean, you knew they were looking at you, right?
I mean, I knew that day, but I knew a lot of people were looking for me. Like, I took 19 visits. Like, they do 30 visits. Like, I took 19 of those, so I was going across to all these different facilities. So I knew, like, there are a lot of people looking at me. But I had only heard about their interest, like, literally that day. Like, my head coach called me from Tulsa, and then my O-line coach called me. He was like, yeah, the Cowboys are kind of looking at O-line. Like, they said we're kind of interested in you. And I was like, okay, like, all right. Like, I don't know what else to say.
I'll believe it when I see it.
But I was like, okay, like, that's good to know, coach. And then I went into the day. So I'm watching it on TV. Like, obviously, you see it happen. And, like, you look, and, like, the first thing you do is you see your phone vibrating. And it said the Star. And I'm like, whoa. Like, you're kind of like, what's going on here? Like, it's kind of unprecedented. So you pick up. Of course, Jerry's on the other line, and, I'm just kind of like, wow, like, it's really reality happening right now. So, it was definitely, it was a blessing. Like, I was just grateful. But, at the time, I knew there was a long road ahead, if that makes sense. I knew a lot would be expected. Like, there was a lot more work to do, for where I wanted to be. So, it was definitely it was a huge step in the path, but, it was awesome.
But you were supposed to get to play guard and break in, it's happened with a lot of guys. Tyron played right tackle his rookie year. And so tell me about the day that Tyron got hurt right in that building, right in there. And they said, oh, by the way, I know you haven't worked there since the spring, but we're going to kick you outside.
So, man, it was definitely a shocking day. Like, obviously, extremely sad. Like, when you see it happen, like, you were just kind of like, is he all right? Like, it looked like he just fell weird. And then you figure out, like, his injury was a little bit more severe. And so, like, my mind is just, I wouldn't say my mind is racing, but I'm just under the, I'm under the impression, I'm like, okay, like, we got to move things around. I don't know how we're going to move things around. And so, one thing they don't tell you in the NFL, like, there isn't, the line of communication is very different. Like, when a player gets, like, lifted or activated or something, like, you'll likely find out on Twitter a lot of the times, like, before you necessarily have somebody call you. And so you just kind of come in, you come to work the next day, like, coach is going to walk up to you, he's going to tell you what's expected. And, you fall into that because, that's your job responsibility to be able to, play wherever he puts you. So, I was definitely sad at the time, but I knew, like, I would probably have to step up and do some things of that nature. I was ready for that. I was ready for everything that came with that.
Tyler Smith is our guest. Nathan, let's start with some questions from our audience.
Hey, Tyler. My name is Corey. My question is, what's one of the biggest things that you learned so far since starting in the NFL?
Definitely just being prepared in everything that you do. Like, you have a lot of confidence in your ability as a football player, like your strength, your speed, like your technique. But your preparation is really what builds a lot of confidence when it goes into game day. So definitely just being, dutiful in your preparation, like everything that you need to do before the game. So when you get to the big stage, like, you're confident in everything that you're doing. You're going a million miles per hour.
So who's the toughest guy you go against in practice on the defensive line?
I'd definitely say tough. Like, Micah and D-Law they're pretty good. I'm not going to lie to you. Those are fast, strong guys. Like, they're good pass rushers. So those definitely the toughest guys on the edge, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so coming out of college, I know there was talk in the media and so forth about penalties that you had in college, but you've done a great job so far right out of the gate. So what have you changed? Is it coaching or something with your techniques, or what's changed?
Definitely just having confidence in my technique for sure is something that's changed. Like, I've had Zach, Tyron, JP in the room, and they've been helping me a lot with that. And I felt like, a lot of things in college, it may have just been me being over-aggressive, me just putting myself in bad positions. That's where a lot of that came from. So it's definitely my coaches, the guys in my room helped me a lot with that. We made a lot of improvements in the way of that.
There's a mental toughness that goes with that, though, too. That because you have to learn to let that go. Like corners have to learn to just let that last play go. That didn't happen, except for what I can learn from it. Where'd that come from?
I mean, it's definitely something you got to have as a football player. Like, you got to be able to let things go. But, like, when people say, like, it did, like, you got to act like it never happened, I don't necessarily believe in that. Like, I feel like you gotta acknowledge that it happened and kind of, you got to take away what you need to take away from it, but you got to move on at the same time. Like, it's kind of like you got to go through the stages of grief, like, in a split second, if that makes sense. Like, you're like, damn, that happened, like, and then you accept that it happened. You're a little upset that it happened. But then, like, you come back to the fact, you accept that it happened. I can't change that play. I got to get to the next one. I got to figure out what I did wrong so I don't make the same mistake, if that makes sense.
Do you stop on anger in there anywhere? I think that's one of the stages of grief.
I mean, you want to be angry, but, like, you don't want to play overly emotional. Like, we try to stay in that neutral mindset. That's definitely somewhere you got to stay. You got to understand as a football player, like, stuff happens. Like, it's part of the job. Those guys get paid too. Obviously, like, you're trying to be the best that you can be. So just really learning from, every negative rep, everything bad that happens is a huge thing. Like, it's one thing for it to happen to you to kind of be like, okay, next play, but, like, you got to take something away from it for sure.
By the way, major props. I've been doing this a long time. I have never had a player at any position say that he treated a bad play or a penalty like the stages of grief.
I know, that was a good comparison, but it made it easier to understand.
Totally. I'm highly impressed. Nathan, I know you're out there. Yeah, there you are. Go ahead. Oh, you're back at the bar. Okay, fine.
Not so much a question, just when you go to Philly, Tyler, clip the wings of those eagles. We don't need to hear "Fly, Eagle, Fly."
Yeah, I got you. I definitely do that.
And keep your helmet on because they're nasty.
Right. It's very personal to me. My roommate is an Eagles fan. My roommate in college, my boy Ant, he's an Eagles fan. So, we got – I can't let him be calling my phone, talking crazy to me. So we'll definitely handle business.
Did Tulsa have a big rival? I mean, I've done a few Tulsa games. I don't know that there's anything that would get emotional about.
No, either way you want to slice it and dice it. To me, like, I couldn't stand Cincinnati. Like, Cincinnati was probably, that was a game that just – because we played so close every time, and I felt like we let them off the hook too often. Like, I say let them off the hook. They were always just really good games, but I felt like we could have got over the hump with them. But we had a lot of good – like, we played everybody pretty tight. Like, OSU, like, my last year there, we played them tight. They got a catch that really wasn't a catch. Like, it just wasn't – I know that's not – it's probably a line we don't want to hear, but it wasn't good. Like, they didn't catch that ball. And so they ended up beating us and, like, it was just we never got over that hump. But Cincinnati definitely. They beat us in the championship my second year, and that still left a sour taste in my mouth. It was tough.
I asked because you've now been to New Jersey, and I refuse to say you went to New York because we didn't get anywhere near New York. We're in New Jersey.
Right.
And that's a division. But he's making actually a very good point. Do you have any idea what you're in for going into Philly wearing a star?
Man, I've heard some things. I've heard they're pretty intense. I took a visit down there. I know their fans can be a little uncanny. They can be a little.
Where'd you go, Temple?
Uncanny.
I went to. I visited the Eagles, like the.
The Eagles.
The Eagles facility.
Okay,
like,
yeah.
So their media people, like, they'll bring you through like a little ringer. I'm not sure if this is a company secret, but they'll kind of tell you, like, you got to be prepared to, like, answer some out of pocket questions, and he'll talk to their head of player engagement. He'll be like, you got to be prepared with some out of pocket people. I've heard my teammates say, like, this is one of those games you don't want to bring your family to because if they're wearing the wrong colors, like, something bad could happen. I'm like, okay, this kind of like, it's kind of gangish over there, like, but it's okay. Like, we're gonna handle business. We gotta shut that down for sure.
That's what I was gonna ask you. What is the advice that's been given from your teammates just about this matchup and the rival? It doesn't matter what the records are whenever you're taking on the Eagles. So what's the advice they've given you?
I mean, we take it week by week. Like, honestly, most advice I've heard is, like, don't bring your fam out there. But other than that, it's another football game against a big rival. Like, there's going to be a lot of juice in this game. Like, they're going to have the home crowd going crazy. So it's definitely going to be one that we're going to have to be physical, establish the tone of the game in the trenches, like, every week.
And it's week 6 out of 17.
Right.
So you can't play 6 games on Sunday night. But I will say this: be prepared for the bus to get egged.
Right.
Oh
wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That happened. How about a big hand for Tyler Smith for being with us?
Appreciate you.
Thank you, man. What a great treat to have you, Hailey. Great to be with you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us, and we'll be right back here at Concrete Cowboy at the Star District in Frisco next Monday night on the Cowboys Hour.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!
This has been a production